Awesome. So it says we're live. Hey, everybody. I am here with Mark Reynolds, and I'm actually super excited. Mark has been a client of mine, and today we're going to have a conversation on his journey, not only his experience of coaching, but also what's his journey been like in business. Because for a lot of people, when they get into business and they're working on creating clients, there is definitely an experience of all these different systems and methods, and some of them contradict each other. And it can actually be very frustrating. And so Mark is here to talk about his journey, what things were like in the beginning, some things that he's learned, shifts that he's experienced. And yeah, I'm excited to dive in. Mark, I'll let you introduce yourself because you help, you're actually very powerful in the way that you help people. And so, yeah, if you want to share about yourself and some areas that you help people with or what your focus is in your business.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks, James. Happy to be here. So what I do is I work with clients. I do music training coaching, creative coaching, and I have a few other things where I do nutritional counseling with functional medicine. And then I also work with a new company that I created with my partner called Neurosymphony, which is neuroacoustic therapy combined with body work. And so I do a few different things with sound and healing and health. And it's been a journey navigating how to get those into a more focused plane for myself, from more of a, multitasking, chaotic environment of constantly switching and trying to start like different businesses at the same time. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it's amazing how, all of that, we don't always see it in the beginning, but how that comes together. Because in the beginning, I know one of the things that kind of came through is that you had many different areas your focus was on. Are you open to sharing just what things were like for you in business as you were finding your feet and what you were bringing your focus to, or how you were trying to direct your focus?
Well, let me think. We've been working together for like about a year now, so I'll have to jog
Yeah.
memory to what was really present at the time. Um, I think that there were certain avenues. It's around what I'm doing now, but a little less focused. And I think that trying to understand how clients are created and moving into a space where I can feel more confident having those conversations. Uh,
Hmm.
and of course, it's a work in progress. I'm always still learning, and but I've come a long way, and it has felt a lot more natural for me to be able to understand what people need and position myself, if I can, in a way that can support them. Um, and so, yeah, the things that I've been working on in the past brought in. I think the music teaching was a little bit more sparse and kind of focusing on more tasks that weren't, and I've read the 4 Hour Work Week. I've read so many books. I've done so many self-help things within business, and I had the mindset, but I really needed to be able to take myself to the next level. And I was focusing on tasks that weren't getting me the results,
Mm,
and more kind of busy work. But
yep.
it felt good. It gives you the forward momentum illusion, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, what's going to actually get you where you want to go? And so that's what the work we started to do focused on.
Yeah, and I love that. And someone might be listening right now and be thinking, for themselves, well, they might be saying like, hey, I'm actually doing a lot of activities, but not necessarily getting the result that I'd like, or I'm not moving as fast as I would desire. Um, is there anything that helped you start to decide where you wanted to direct your attention, or that helped you focus on what activities move things forward?
I think having a delineated list for me, like lists and systems, really help, and having actionable plans. And we started to work in a way where we'd have just notes written during the session, and then I could review them afterwards and take those steps between sessions. Um, Yeah, and in the past, I think I had to have some mindset shifts as well that really shifted my awareness around approaching people and interpersonal relationships, connections with potential clients. Um, and having had gone through, a network marketing thing in the past and having a terrible experience alienating myself from friends and drinking the Kool-Aid and really feeling like, oh, I really don't want to do that again. I really don't want to fall down that, and trying to, understand and discern the difference of what business really is and
Hmm.
how those MLMs can like kind of taint that in a way that makes it not as enjoyable or authentic.
Yep.
And so I had to parse through some of that. And I think some of that was limiting my journey in feeling comfortable moving forward and realizing that, you're never there to make anyone do anything. It's really about a client feeling like, oh, here's something that I would like to do. Here's someone that can support that. And being able to apply, accountability or follow up with them with things that they say they'd like to do and finding out if that is fit. And yeah, it's a very, as we use high, low, high expectation, um, high intention, low expectation, using that as a system where you feel a lot more comfortable without having expectations, and just feeling into the space with that in mind really helped me.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. It's actually, as you were talking about the multi-level marketing, I was thinking, I remember I once had someone, we had reconnected, and we were going to do like a catch-up call or something like that. And partway through, they're like, I have a 15-minute video to show you. And I'm like, what is going on right now? Because it wasn't right sincere. They were trying to like show a video or something like that, or just everything was about that business. And so it sounds like for you, um, some of the main differences is really being there for the person and really hearing them without necessarily having to push all the business stuff on them, because they it sounds like they already know that's kind of like they already know that's what you do, or they already know that's why you're there in some ways. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the who is really important because some people aren't really ready. And a lot of that comes in with their mindset of limiting beliefs or, hey, I want help, but I have this double standard that actually, if I got help, I'd be weak, or um, money stuff that comes up. I really want to invest in myself, but, I'm not in a position to, but I'm also trying to reach out to get help. And people don't really know what they want sometimes. And I think it's important to really provide clarity. And I think, giving that is at least to them so that they can parse through what these limiting beliefs or negative mindsets might be that's holding them back getting results. um, and we all have them, right? It's just looking at them and being aware and exposing them is like, oh, they don't have power anymore. And
Hmm.
finding a balance of being able to navigate that with ease, and also having that kind of motivated hard work that it takes to really build a business or build clients, whatever it might be that the client's doing.
Yep. And what have you found helped create the shift, or what was the new thought for you that helped you feel more at ease about connecting with people? Because I know, I've talked with people in the past where, maybe they have a mindset of, well, person isn't ready, so I'm not going to hop on a call with them yet, or they have money challenges, so I'm not going to hop on the call, or I don't know how much money they have. And I think there's been a shift where, part of creating clients is actually getting to know these different people, right? Because they can connect you to someone else who actually does have money or is in the right space. What was the shift for you that helped you feel more comfortable around just the idea of connecting with more people without having that be the main barometer, if that makes sense?
Well, I mean, right. Ultimately, money comes from people, right?
Yep.
Unless it's some like odd inheritance or something, or like, but it's still from people. And I
Hmm.
think that in life, we need to know how to advocate for ourselves. And we're continuously in an environment where it feels like we're, at least I'll speak for myself, like sometimes it's like I'm not allowed to do that, or I'm not worthy of that. And finding my own limiting beliefs that have held me back from saying, oh, I actually have something to offer. And when people reach out to me, I'm like surprised. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh, it's a reflection, it's a reminder. It's helpful for me to remember that, oh, I do have a lot of skills and knowledge and wisdom around things, and it's helpful for me to not put that on ice or on the sidelines, and actually have conversations with people, see what matches, see what aligns. And I think getting into the flow of just talking to people. I remember early on you said something around just having conversations and getting into the flow, even if it's a close or not. And I think that you're able to just have conversations and get used to this process of understanding what the client needs and how you might be able to support them. So that to me is how I think things shifted in just practice and repetition, and just getting in there and having conversations and getting to know people, and having an awareness around how to structure these calls in a way that can be best supportive with the time allocated.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I'm really glad you touched on that, because, ultimately what I'm hearing is, instead of the premise that was maybe getting into a conversation in the past, right, might have been like the trying to get the client. It sounds like really just having that ease of being open to getting in a conversation and seeing where you might be able to be of help or be able to be of service actually started to unlock something for you, where you were able to start to feel more comfortable in the conversations. And then it actually led to a lot of these different moments where you were pleasantly surprised at what came from that, or who you were introduced to, or even just the opportunity that occurred, or even the way that you were able to help them. Because I think I think that's really smart that you said that, right? You're just seeing how things align, because sometimes there could be a person that nothing aligns, but the fact that you're open to a conversation, you actually created the opportunity for something to occur.
Right. And I've been in those situations where it's like it doesn't align at all, and it actually
Yeah.
feels really good to be like, oh, I actually don't want to work with this person. Like, I don't want to deal with this. They don't know what they want. They actually said they wanted help, and now on the call they said, oh, I'm actually completely fine. I don't need your help. And I'm like, it's just funny how people don't know what they want sometimes, that they really want help. And that's what I was referring to earlier, is like getting clear on these double standards. And a lot
Mhm.
of us don't know that they're there until these conversations are had, where we discern what the goals, the challenges, what's coming in between, and even outside our current paradigm of what is the ultimate vision of what is available to you in this life, right? And what
Mhm.
gifts that you have to offer that might be undiscovered at this moment. So there's even beyond just like what we're aware of in this moment, but then there's tapping into, what is the ultimate vision here? What is available on a grand scale of your life's purpose, your life's mission, and what your full potential can be. And we've heard so many, approaches to that, but I think that with the work I do with unleashing your creative genius and working with creative clients, that's the realms that I approach, and people don't realize that they actually have a wellspring of creativity in them at all times, whether they think they're creative or not.
Yeah, I love that. What would you say to someone, or what would be the recommendation that you'd give them? Let's say this is something that is new to them and they do feel uncomfortable around conversations. Are there any tips that you would give them, or anything specific that you found really helpful, that moved you in that direction?
I would say taking it one step at a time, having actionable steps, knowing your goals and what might be in the way of that, and just getting in the ring with like small, low stakes situations. Because in life, we're going to need to advocate for ourselves and negotiate. Life is one large life. I say with my therapist, life is negotiable. Life
Yeah.
is one large negotiation, whether that's with yourself, with the universe, or with people around you. Um, and it's malleable. And I think that we forget that, and we get stuck in a sense of uh, learned helplessness in some ways. And so I think just getting in the ring and saying, oh, I'm going to talk to this person today and get to know what their life is like and just catch up with them. And, all the way up to crossing the street, you might need to negotiate.
Yeah.
There's interactions that can build us up to powerful calls that can create clients. But until we get there, it's these small steps that give us the competence and confidence to be able to move into those spaces comfortably.
Yeah, and I think that's wonderful advice. And so, let's say they're doing this, they're starting to have more conversations, and maybe they're like yourself in the beginning, where you had many many different areas you were directing your focus. How would you What would you say helped you, and that might help them start to identify where to direct their attention? Because I think one of the things that that you've shared, that you've come to, is that in order to actually create what you want, you have to give it the energy and attention. And if there's too many things, then everything's kind of scattered. How did you start to narrow down where you wanted to direct your focus and that energy and attention?
That's like one of the most, I think, powerful questions. And I think, when I look at what I call dharma, is like, from that perspective, we're looking at what's your mission? What are you really passionate about? Not only what are you passionate about, what are your skill sets, right? And then who do you want to help? Like the who question again. And then what are their needs? So it's passion, skills, who do you want to help, and what is their pain? What are their needs? And where all those meet is your dharma, your mission, what you're really going to be most effective at. Because you could be really passionate about something, but someone might not need it, or you might not have the skills or be very good at it. And so I think drawing that out and finding where those four circles meet. And for me, it's been an interesting journey, just in terms of surprise and unexpectedness, because what I do now is create music, and I work with sonic protocols and low frequencies to help move energy out of people's bodies, along with neurological tissue work. It's just the most abstract thing, and people love it. And we're recognized by a San Francisco neuroscience firm, and they're looking to have us have solutions for cognitive decline. And we've recently been given a grant, and it's just been unreal to be able to see how that these things have come together based on my partner and I's passions. And I think it is a little cheesy to just say follow your passion, but sometimes doing that with a real level-headed um, mindset of how you can apply your passions with the skills, knowing who it is and what their needs are, and then making sure that all of those are cross correlating. I think that you can really do what you're here to do. And I think that's what's so amazing about this generation breaking out of the 9 to 5 culture. And for some people, that might be what they need, right? But it's amazing to say, oh, I'm here for something. I have a gift. You mean that I'm allowed to do that and make a good living with that? Like, I think that's the most amazing thing. And that's why I love the 4-hour work week so much. And going through coaching like this has been so supportive in doing something that I really believe in, that I feel passionate about, and being able to make a living with it and have purpose at the same time, right? Having all those boxes checked, rather than, submitting to a cubicle and saying, this is what it is until, my golden 60s, and then I can relax. It's like having those mindsets will take us there. And I think that has been really fruitful for me and helpful along my journey.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And I love the way that you captured that, because I think of it when, when, and you talk about people breaking out of the 9 to 5, right? Because when people say, oh, think about what you want to do, when people are younger, if they actually look around, it's just like really general stuff to choose from. But ultimately, people end up in careers and positions that they would have never thought of. And I think this is a similar thing. As a business owner and entrepreneur, is there can be this tendency to look around and feel like we're choosing something, but nothing ever quite matches up. However, when you follow, your passion or your mission, and you take these steps, right? Like speaking with people, seeing what lights you up, seeing what's on mission, something starts to unfold that you wouldn't have been able to identify early on, right? Like to say, hey, I'm actually, going to work with these different frequencies in music to help people with these things in health, right? That's not necessarily something that early on you would have said, yeah, that thing. But it evolved, and then the levels that you've reached with that, and the way that you've been able to support and help people, and the different things that have come from that, are all from following, right, that process of being of service, of doing what's in alignment, and really following your inner knowing, rather than thinking that it's going to be something outside you that's going to be the right answer. And so I think it's really cool what you've created.
Thanks, James. And I think, yeah, from what you shared, like that makes complete sense. The actual treatment and method itself was sort of to scratch my own itch. And from doing that, I realized that this is something that I would love even just friends to experience, my loved ones to experience. And before we knew it, we were doing paid sessions. So it really erupted. It wasn't like, oh, let's start a business, we want to make money from this. It was like, oh, we love doing this. And I think that that's really important for people to realize, is that when we focus on what we love, we're going to outperform people who are in the field that don't really love it. And what we do really outshines and allows us to focus and have impact. And when people feel that impact, they vouch for you and they want to see you succeed. They want to invest, or they want to partner with you. And that's what we've seen. And it's been a journey of not only that, but with the coaching as well, of just finding out ways to support that journey through actionable steps, but also keeping my mind on the right track with how I think about approaching conversations and myself and money, right? So if I
Yeah.
have double standards with money, then I'm going to feel weird asking for it, or I'm going to feel weird. And so really understanding where I stand with money, and have done a lot of healing and reinterpreting that portion of life, right? Of what it is, an exchange. It's, there's a lot to speak about on that, but being clear on in my system of, oh, this is actually beneficial for everyone, and being in a mindset where you can provide a service to help people and they get to pay for it, and rather than having to figure it out on all their own, they get support, they get accountability, and they get to heal. In my case, when I do nutritional coaching, I get to feel support in such a dire time when they're not feeling health. And that's such a vulnerable place to be. So yeah, I think that all those things can like cross correlate and find an intersection at mindset with also actionable steps, and just being clear on the vision that we have for what we're here to do.
Yeah. That's amazing. And, I'm curious, what is there a particular money belief that you adopted um, that stands out to you?
Mm-hmm. You have to work hard. You have to work really hard. And unless you have like a slip desk, you're not really making money. Or, from doing landscaping, like how hard you work is going to be how much money you make. Or
Hmm.
and not really having a good template of that growing up in terms of how to step into entrepreneurship. I've always been more towards entrepreneurship. I've worked jobs, but I've never gravitated and been like, oh, this is my path, or I'm going to follow this like surefire path. I've always been on the edge of like, oh, I'm going to do my own thing and falling into my own inspirations, but feeling like I had to work really hard. And if it doesn't hurt, or I'm not like at the expense of my body, right? If I'm not
Mhm.
pulling all nighters, if I'm working long hours forgetting to eat, and my blood sugar's all out of whack, and I'm just not feeling good, then there's a weird sort of psychological sense that like, oh, I'm making real progress because I'm making sacrifices and I'm experiencing pain, um, and then I had some health issues that came from that, and then it sort of led me to a decade of investigating biology and understanding functional medicine. I now help other people with their health. So in some ways, it sort of has led me to that. But at the same time, I wouldn't wish that on people if that's there. And I think that other people have resonated with that too, where you need to work really hard in order for good things to happen.
Mhm. Yeah, and how have you, what would you say that new belief is written into? Right, so if it's no longer that you have to be, you know, in a sense, like, fully sacrificing, right, like, yourself and your body, what how would you describe the new belief or what that translates into?
Well, I'm still a hard worker and I'm still very focused,
Mhm.
but I'd say finding flow and finding the path of least resistance. Like, what are the objectives that are going to get me 80% of the results with 20% of that energy using the Pareto principle, and finding out how I can allocate my time in more power packed ways, like batching things and batching different tasks by not doing switching tasks every moment during the day. Uh, so I think a lot of those things really supported me. The mindset is mostly just around finding power packed path of least resistance. Like, where are the packets of energy that are already flowing down? It's like, oh, cool, I'm going to get on that boat, right? Instead of reinventing the ship, reinventing the wheel, finding a way to, and something feels really good about doing that, right? Because
Yep.
that's what I meant by the illusion of forward momentum, is that like, oh, I reinvented the wheel. It's like, we already had that, but like, good job, so it's like, you could, like, doesn't need to feel hard. And sometimes I think that it's necessary to like double check that and make sure that we're not operating from that place.
Yeah. I think that's a great belief that you shared because I think what happens is a lot of times when people are marketed to, they do hear a title, right? Like the 4-hour work week, or they hear like, hey, just like lay on a beach and, don't do any work, but make money. And, I think a distinguishing factor that you're talking about is there's a difference between, spending your life doing work that you don't want to do versus spending your time on things that are on path, are on mission. And some of those things, we do run into things that's like, oh, this is frustrating, but it's not the majority of the time. And so I think it's really great that you're saying, you still work, you put the work in, and you reap the results of that. Because I would never want to give anyone the idea that they never have to work just because they're doing something that they like. Like, working can be a very fulfilling thing. And I also love that you're sharing, not to sacrifice your health in the process of work. Because if that's the case, it might just mean that you're attempting to reinvent the wheel when the wheel's already been invented. So just making sure we're using the time and resources effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. And without, finding a way to do these things over and over, where you're having these mindset shifts, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. The thing with doing your own passion and following your dharma will also reveal things to us that we didn't see before. And then we can allocate our time in a way that feels much more purposeful and passion driven, rather than feeling like we're tugged along. We're actually being guided and led, and following mission and purpose. And that feels a lot different. And time kind of flies in that way, and it feels fun rather than, and there are certain times for sure when I experience frustration, or there's actual like bumps in the road and things like that. I think it can be very helpful to just have that balanced mindset of like finding out what it is that feels really good, and then working with the curveballs as they come.
Nice. Um, So, this actually feels really, really good to me in terms of like the spot that we're at, because I'm picturing this as really someone who is been caught up in probably marketing and trying to figure out social media and all these different things. And what you're sharing here is really how the process has unfolded for you on being of service, following what's in alignment, listening to your dharma. Um, do you have any last, I guess like words of wisdom for someone that is on this journey, as they're transitioning out of maybe this other style that they've felt frustrated with?
Yeah, it's such an individual question, right? Because it depends on where that person's at. Um, but I would say sitting down and having a moment with yourself and doing the circles, the passion, skills, who, and then what are their needs, and just writing that out feels really good. And that's just like a great first step to seeing what's available to you and what feels exciting. And talking to people and even saying, hey, if what's something that you think that I'm really good at, that and having conversations with people that could feel beneficial to just getting reflections. If someone is feeling that they're not able to make the impact that they are in their current field, I think it's useful to have support. Working with you has been invaluable, just in having weekly support and being able to have a coach that I can reflect with, even off sessions. I've been able to ping you and say like, hey, this is happening with a client. This is, I'm not really sure. I'm at a standstill. What can I do here? And it's been invaluable for me to be able to have that support. And I think with that arsenal of tools, you're able to start to have a direction forward. And the questions will never end. Like there's always going to be some new task or objective, but there's going to be a surefire path of what feels purposeful and what makes sense in terms of fulfilling work to do.
Oh, so good. And just in case anyone wants to find out more about you or find out more about Neurosymphony, where should they look?
You can find us at neurosymphony.co. Our website is almost launched. We're in beta right now. And my work is under Prismatic Mantis and Awakened Waves. And those are both on Instagram. And you can find that on my music on Bandcamp under those aliases. And yeah, I think that's everything.
Cool, cool. I love it. And for those of you that are listening, if you'd like more of these conversations, or you have questions, or you're interested in coaching, you can check out jmwhiteman.com, and all the details are there, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen, and thank you, Mark, for sharing your wisdom and your journey. I think this is going to be super helpful to so many people on their journey to service.
Thanks so much, James. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.